Hi, Book Warriors. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are thrilled to have Stephanie Perkins joining us. Stephanie and I first met, I guess it was 2 years ago at Malice Domestic. Is that right?
I think so,
And I
yeah.
don't even think your first book was out yet, but we're with the
No, it
same
wasn't. Yeah.
publisher. And we were meeting with the editors and publishing people and all that from the publishing house and ended up at a bar drinking all kinds of stuff together.
Yes.
And it was a lot of fun. And she told me she was from Houston, Melissa and I are both ex-Texans. Now ended up amazingly living a mile and a half apart in North Carolina, which was a crazy coincidence. Yeah. But
I know that.
anyways, we hit it off, and now she's published and has some great books. So we're going to talk about those tonight. And Book
Great.
Warriors, if you have any questions, just type them in the chat box or wherever that is, and we'll see if we can get them on there. So let me read her bio so y'all know what Stephanie's all about. So she is a fifth generation Texan, which is something Texans are always proud of.
Oh, yeah.
The farther back, the better. She grew up hearing fascinating stories of her ancestry and eating lots of great Tex-Mex, both of which inspired the plot of her debut mystery novel. Murder Once Removed was the winner of the 2017 Malice Domestic Best First Traditional Mystery Competition. Congratulations on that. That's a big deal. She resides in Houston, and when she's not writing or working at her day job, she's likely outside in the sun, on the beach, or riding horses. So we've got a lot to talk about tonight. So first, let's talk about your name, though. You write as SC, but your name is Stephanie. So can you tell us about that?
That's correct. Yes. There's another author named Stephanie Perkins, and she writes romance and suspense horror, I think. And she's great. And but so we have the same name, and I've always wanted to write under my initials anyway, so it sort of worked out and everything. But feel free to call me Stephanie. But whenever you look for me, you do have to look for SC Perkins. Yeah.
That's good to know. So everybody can know to look for you under that name. So I'm curious. So your stories, they not only have the genealogy stuff, but you tie in history really well with the, and I guess your DNA and genealogy is family history, but I find that fascinating. So was history your favorite uh, class in high school?
One of them, yes. I've always loved history. Just grew up just being fascinated by anything historical. I love historical mysteries and love watching historical programs on PBS and, movies and whatnot. And so history has just always been one of the things that I've been fascinated with. And so it just sort of worked out that I kind of got to indulge my genealogy geek and my history geek in my book. So I like it that people like it as well. So that makes me very happy. There's a lot more history geeks out there.
Original.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's so much fun. It's fun to do all the research. So I love it.
And then there's takeaway value too. I always like it when I learn something new. My cat is right here bugging me.
My dog.
Yes.
She's trying to knock my drink
Oh,
out of my
pretty.
hand.
I love it.
Yeah. So
I
I
don't
don't know.
have any pets right now. I miss them, but yeah,
Well,
I
you
need to
can
get
borrow some of mine. Mine have gotten into trouble
right,
today. My two
right,
dogs
right.
got into a fight this morning, and one of them I had to take to the vet. He had to get some stitches. So $350
Nice.
later.
Oh, man.
Yes.
They're going through that. The shepherd is aging, and so the terrier thinks he can move up in the ranks, and it's
Uh-huh.
ridiculous. Male dog.
Yes. That never works out very well.
I'm drinking Midori sour. My son got me some Midori
Ooh,
for my birthday, which was recently. So I love how this is like toxic green. So what do y'all have?
I like it.
I have a red wine that's the last red from the wine club my kids got me for Mother's Day. I'm not even sure what it is. It's just red and good right now.
I love it. Y'all told me to use a cup that was special to me in some way. I actually don't have a cocktail glass that's special to me. Not that I have anymore. I flooded out during Hurricane Harvey, so I lost a whole lot of stuff.
Oh,
And
man.
but this is a teacup that my brother gave me that I love, but it actually has a bourbon and Sprite in there.
Oh, perfect.
Cheers, everyone. So,
My husband worked in Houston during Hurricane Harvey. He worked with the school district, and so he was down there sort of on the front lines. It was horrible.
yeah, it was pretty bad. I was one of those who had to be rescued. My
Wow.
my whole complex flooded to the second floor, and so we had to like jump out our second floor window and be rescued by an airboat and stuff.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So it was, but I mean, I was luckier than most. I had somewhere to go immediately, and my parents and everything, and they were fine and everything. So there were a lot more people worse off than I was, even though I pretty much lost my whole first floor and everything. So, so yeah, it was it wasn't super fun. I feel very, very sorry for everyone in Louisiana right now who's dealt with all the hurricanes and everything. But,
My cousin
yeah.
lives in Houston too, and yeah, they had like 6 inches of water in their house with Harvey, but they got it fixed amazingly quick. I was surprised by that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
what a mess. So
It
so
is.
um so your first book has an Austin connection.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up in Austin, so I love that,
Did
of
you?
course. So yeah, yeah, it's been a while since I've been back there, especially now with COVID. But yeah, I loved Austin. So and then your second one is more England, right? It's
No, it's actually still set in Austin.
oh, okay.
But it has a World War II connection, and some of the ancestors were
Okay.
from England and everything.
Okay.
So yes, so
It's on
there's
my it's in my to be read pile.
yes, absolutely. Hey, I get it. I get it. We all have TBR piles that are a mile high and
Oh my
everything.
gosh. Yeah, if my Kindle and Nook apps are just about maxed out as far as what my phone can handle, with
Yes.
memory and stuff.
You need to invest in the actual Kindle or the actual book.
Yeah. Well, actually, I have a Kindle somewhere, but I just too many things to charge and too many.
Oh yeah, we've
No
had that
kidding,
conversation.
right? No kidding.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
always trying to find the right thing to connect to it and all that. So what is your next book coming out? So you've got two out, and
It's coming out in July of 2021.
okay.
And I just released the cover today, did a cover reveal, and I'm
It's
so in
not.
love with the cover. And this one has it has an art background to it, an art plot line that deals also with researching Civil War ancestors um, in genealogy. And because researching your Civil War ancestors is sort of a little bit of a different beast than researching regular ancestors and everything, just the way that they handled all the records and everything.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of a little bit of a mystery in and of itself and everything, because you can't take everything at face value. You sort of have to connect the dots a little bit and everything. And so I found it really fascinating. And so yeah, so it's got a little bit of the Civil War theme in there. And but I got to study some art, which was fun. I've got an art history geek in there with me too. So yeah, so and that one is set in Austin and Houston, so where I'm from. And so yeah, so that it's fun. It's still with my editor right now. I should be getting my edits back in a few days or a couple weeks.
So why is it that the researching is different? Is it because of the war it was harder to get accurate records? Is that part of the reason, or
Well, a lot of the records, especially in the South, the records were destroyed,
oh, okay.
and then they just didn't really do good record keeping in the Civil War. Like, for instance, they only took muster rolls, like attendance rolls type thing, every 2 months. So if you think your ancestor might have been in a certain battle, and this was North and South, and if you think your ancestor might have been in a certain battle, you really can't be sure unless there's, you kind of have to back it up with other forms of proof, whether it's journals, or there's a few places that you can actually find, soldiers that actually, a list of soldiers that actually fought in that war. And I think Colorado was for weird reasons. They actually would take muster rolls more frequently, or they were better about it. And there's a couple of places that actually have lists of soldiers that actually died on the battlefield. I think Antietam was one of them,
Yeah, okay.
but otherwise you can't just take it at face value. You kind of have to make sure that you back it up with other forms of proof. And then the War Department in the early 1920s, I believe, took all the Civil War records that they had from North and South, and actually recreated them, and put them at the National Archives. And so basically every Civil War soldier um, has a folder that has whether what outfit they were in and regiment and whatnot, where they were from. and whether there was muster rolls taken or whatever. And if there was any information on them, it was recreated faithfully. And then and it was put on at the National Archives and whatnot to be accessed. And now it's all online, which is great. But so some soldiers might have 10 records that tell you a lot more about, whether they were in the hospital or whether they were, whether they fought that day or whether they were, AWOL and went, absent without leave or whatever. And some of them might just have one that tells you, what outfit they were in, and some of them, whether they might desert or what. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And so it's just not super easy to just say, oh, my ancestor was in the Civil War, I'm just going to make sure that he was there. And, you really do have to do a lot of backing up. So it was a very long answer to your question, but
well, and I guess it makes sense because some of those battles where they were probably just trying to stay alive, and keeping records probably wasn't important if they didn't have food or whatever to eat. But it was interesting when we lived in Nashville for a couple of years in between stints in Texas, and I didn't realize that it was such a important part of the Civil War, because there was this huge battle in Franklin, which is a town just south of Nashville. And it was basically almost as big as Gettysburg. In fact, I think more people died there than in Gettysburg. And there's a house called the Carter House there, where I'm probably not going to get this just quite right, but like the owner of the house had fought for, trying to remember. He had fought like it wouldn't have been the War of 1812, but like the Spanish-American War or something that was not
French, maybe French and Indian.
Maybe that. Yeah. It was something that wasn't long before the Civil War. But then he got caught as a Confederate, but was kind of let go with the, because of his former service, kind of given some leeway, but told, okay, the terms of this are you do not fight for the South. Well, then, but his son went off. So anyway, his son ends up coming back, marching back with his regiment, ends up dying in the yard of his own house.
Oh my gosh.
House. It was really, some of the description of, and some of the description of how people died there was really horrific. And then the family was basically having to hunker down in the cellar while this battle was going on in their yard. And then there was a plantation called the Carton Plantation that was about 1.5 miles away, and it became a field hospital. And there was a woman there, and her last name was McGavick, and they call her the Widow of the South. And she, after the battle was over, like they went out and buried a bunch of bodies, and she tried to keep records, exactly what you're talking about, records of who was buried where, because people would come back, mostly Southern people would come to look for their family member, and they wanted to know where they were buried. So there was this whole Confederate cemetery there, and it was supposed to be haunted.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
So it was interesting learning all that, and Tennessee had a really weird history. Well, so did North Carolina. Very divided at that time about whether to be in the war or not. And first they voted against it, and then they voted to join the South because they didn't want people being conscripted. And
all that. There's a lot of there's so many angles that you could take. And so what I basically did was really took the researching angle, and then it really dealt with art other than that, because there's a lot of sensitive issues you can get into with the Civil War and everything. And I didn't want to go that far into it and everything. So I, with except for a few factoids or two or something like that, and we'll see. I still have to get my edits back. You never know how it might change. We all know what if our editors say, hey, we want more of this or more than that and everything. But, so that's been really fun, and I'm looking forward to that one. So it's just, the research is so much fun.
Well, my son told me that art history was his hardest class at art school.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think it was tough. So I have a question about how your mysteries work. So does the research and the genealogy factor into the solving of the crime? Does that sort of lead your sleuth, or is that just like a bake shop or a knitting shop or whatever, that's sort of the backdrop, and the crime is a little bit unrelated to that or separate from the research?
Thus far, I have the crimes being done in such a way that Lucy, as a genealogist, can help with the investigation by researching and thus far, you know, there's been some other situation that has compelled her to, you know, become interested into the investigation and whatnot. And as it always is with our amateur sleuths and whatnot, because unless they actually are with the police and everything, then there has to be sort of a reason for it. But there's always a connection to that genealogy and whatnot. And genealogy can get a little confusing. There's so much information. There's so much that can get, you know, that can confuse people and whatnot. So I try to keep it, thus far, at least, as to one aspect or another of genealogy. Like my first one was very sort of overall. Sort of, there's a lot of information about genealogy in there. And then my second one was using a pedigree chart and researching ancestors whenever you know the descendants and bringing it back to the actual. I'm sorry, when you know the ancestors and you're bringing it back to the descendants, to use a pedigree chart and everything. And then the third one is researching Civil War records, because they are different from researching any other records, for, you know, in some ways or another and everything. So
do you put a family tree or a genealogy chart or something in each book to help the reader like keep it straight?
Not a family tree, because there hasn't been a need for one yet, but you never know. Mm-hmm. In Murder Once Removed, there is a let me see if I can show you. There is a pedigree chart. I mean, a genealogy relationship chart in the front. Let's see, where did it go? And see.
Oh wow!
See, so it. Oops. There you go.
That's
so it's it tells you how you're related to your cousins, and so like your cousin once removed or whatever, and then in Lineage Most Lethal there is a ancestral chart or a pedigree chart.
Oh,
in the front.
cool.
And so they've been Minotaur has been wonderful about putting the front matter in there and they've just done a really wonderful job. So I'm not sure that there will necessarily be anything in the front of the third one, but you never know. So you never know. We'll have to see.
That's very cool. Let's take a second to say hey to some of our people here. So Lynn Chandler Willis is here. Yeah. Hey, Lynn.
Hi.
Peggy Anderson, and then Shelly, our friend Shelly, just showed up. So, hey guys, thanks for being here.
Hi,
Lynn. Yeah, glad you're here.
So if you came in late, we're talking to Stephanie Perkins, who writes as SC. See, I need to refresh. Oh, is it Lecha? Haney? I'm not sure. I apologize if I'm not saying your name correctly, but she said she loves your book.
Oh, thank you so much.
Your book cover. And
thank you. Thank you. I love them too. Minotaur does such a great job on my covers.
I've been real happy with mine too. Yeah, they've got great artists. I love how the colors on yours, it's not really rainbow, but it's like a spectrum or something.
Yes.
Background.
Yeah, they have, and it's just been beautiful. I love them. So I've been so lucky.
So I was reading on your website that your first book was nominated for an Agatha Award. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, that was congratulations. That's so exciting just to be nominated.
Yes, it really is. I mean, you know, people always say that, but whenever it actually happens to you, it's so true. And so it was actually Murder Once Removed that was nominated, and the first one. So it's just been wonderful. And so I didn't win a Tara Laskowski one for One Night Gone and everything. And then that's a wonderful book too, and much deserved, but it's so exciting.
So did you go to the awards ceremony and all that?
Well, no, because it was this year.
Oh,
and
this
so,
year?
Yes, so it was, yes. So they're going to, assuming Malice happens next year, we're going to be all get to celebrate with next year's nominees too. And so yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it, that all these things are being canceled? And
Yeah.
You know, like I usually go to the romance writers conference every summer, and of course that was canceled. And next year it was going to be in Nashville, and I thought, well, great, that's driving distance from where we are in North Carolina. I mean, 8 hours, but to me that's easy driving distance, you know. And I was looking
Right.
forward to that. Now, you know, I'm kind of going, I don't know. I mean, Left Coast Crime has already been canceled, and that was in April. So
I know. I know. I'm hoping things will happen again next year. Are y'all doing BoucherCon this weekend?
I'm not.
Yeah.
My son's visiting from California, so we're going to the beach. One last
Oh,
beach.
fun.
yeah, I've got
Nice.
Friends and Roses, which is a romance writers event. It's a fundraiser for literacy, and I do that whenever I can. It's always really really fun, and yeah, so I've got
Oh,
on Saturday.
So
that
interesting.
sounds great.
I'm sure it's so different to do it online. Are they all run on Zoom, Diane?
Yeah, they're all going to be on Zoom.
So,
Yeah.
Stephanie, have you done any kind of online conferences or anything like that? I really have.
Well, I'll be doing BoucherCon. I've done other online things, but not a conference yet. And so, if anybody's doing registered for BoucherCon as a attendee, I'll be on a panel on the Friday the 16th at 9:30 a.m. Pacific. So
What's your
What-
panel?
it's about having romance in a cozy mystery. So
Ask you about that. Yeah, that you.
yeah.
So
Tell us more.
Right.
it's fun. It's fun to me. It's always fun to add a little bit of romance. You know, mine have gotten less romancy as time goes on, but it's always fun to have that element in there. So
I think so. I think that that's part of why I love cozy so much is that little spark of romance that's in there, and and it's fun to write. I love the banter and everything, and so I personally have a great time writing it, and I've had a lot of people say that they love Lucy and her guy that she's into is Special Agent Ben Turner, and so that's been a lot of fun to write. So.
but I find too that the romantic arc, you know, it kind of ties all the stories together. So you can have, you know, your arc for every story, but then you can have an overarching arc for the series can be the romantic arc
Exactly.
where, you know, they can have their career, you know, advance, but then also have their personal life advance too. And that's
Exactly.
So, your love interest is what kind of an agent?
FBI agent.
So, did you have to do a lot of research for that, or is it sort of ongoing? Like where to start?
Yes, I've done some research. I actually met some FBI agents and whatnot, and they allowed me to interview them and everything.
Okay.
And and the reason that I chose an FBI agent is because assuming that I get to move Lucy along for more than just these 3 books, and fingers crossed, I want her to be able to go out of state. And if she has a police officer boyfriend, he can't help her with, with any sort of investigation because they can't cross state lines. And so, but an FBI agent can. So that's why I made him an FBI agent.
FBI
that was good planning.
That was good.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, because with genealogy, I mean, she really needs to go to DC. I mean, even to Utah, and I mean, there's some genealogy hotspots and everything that I would love to take Lucy to. So we'll see.
Are there probably are genealogy conferences? Would you go to one of those just to?
Oh yeah. There's a big one with the Daughters of the American Revolution, and so I'm hoping to be able to go to that next year. I think that would be so much fun. So, so we'll see.
It's fun to set a book at one of those.
Yes,
All kinds.
I
all
know,
kinds of
right?
Craziness could happen.
Yeah,
No kidding.
books.
Yes, exactly. I think it would be so much fun. So I'm
My
hoping.
sister-in-law got involved with them. She was in the Austin chapter actually of the
Mhm.
DAR for a while, and
Yeah, they're fun. The chapter that I'm in with here in Houston, they're wonderful. They do a great job, and and they're about it's about keeping the genealogy and keeping the past alive. If they're patriots and whatnot, but they also do a lot of volunteer work, and they do really, really a whole lot, and everything from keeping gravestones clean out at the cemeteries to helping veterans and whatnot. They do some really good work. So I've really enjoyed being a part of that group, even though I'm fairly new to it. And so I'm going to be getting more involved next year.
Well, it's amazing how, I don't know if it's just getting older, but you start realizing how history was not all that long ago. Like I remember being a kid saying in the olden days, and
Right.
on the Prairie Books, they seem so long ago. But like when we were in Nashville, we went to this, 150th, anniversary of the Battle of Spring Hill, which was the town just south of where we were. We were in a town called Thompson Station, and they had a reenactment. And it was right around the year I was turning 50. And so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm 50, my life's about half over. And I'm thinking, really, that's only, 150 years is like if somebody lived to be 100, died on the day I was born. And then that really put it in perspective. I'm like, this is not that long ago.
Yep.
It's kind of like, no wonder there's still so many issues still going on. But you realize, history really was not that long ago. And like, there's so much history in North Carolina too, the Wright brothers stuff. And then, I've gone out to where the lost colony was and kind of learned about that. And it's just, even though this was hundreds of years ago, there's still horses there from the Spanish explorers that they left these ponies behind and they reproduced. There's evidence of this history that to me is just absolutely fascinating that it's.
Exactly. Me too. I mean, I just geek out over it constantly. So it's really neat.
Yeah, I
All the
didn't
stuff on
as
the
a kid. I didn't really like my history classes in high school that much, but they were mostly, this is going to sound mean and probably stereotypical, but they were taught by coaches who were more in their football team or basketball team, and teaching was, was just read the book and answer questions. There wasn't really a whole lot of effort that went into making it.
Watergate. The only thing that sticks out to me is learning about Watergate.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Watergate was fascinating. Oh, did y'all watch all the Kings Men television? Yeah. Did y'all watch the Robert Redford, All the King's Men? Because they actually showed it to us in class. It was fantastic. And then we had to read it. So I think so.
I'll have to add that to my list. I have been to the parking garage where Deep Throat met with whoever. Because a friend of mine, she works for the State Department, and she did a stint in DC, and I went up to visit her, and we were like just walking one day to her hotel from a downtown Target, and she's like, "Oh, see this sign here?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's
wow, I'd be like,
yeah. I mean, it is just kind of interesting. So have you done your genealogy? Have you submitted
well, I have not, but I actually come from a long line of armchair or amateur genealogists going back to my great grandfather. And so on my dad's side, we have most of it done, and going back, I think, to the 1500s, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then on my mom's side, we've had quite a bit done. My mom has done it as well as some of her relatives, I think. And but my mom has two, like her maiden name and then her mother's maiden name are really, really common names, like Jones and Smith type names and everything. And so, and of course, they come from England where there's 8 bazillion of them and everything. So my mom's side is a little bit harder, but yeah, but my dad's side, we know so much. And I mean, I even know that I come from a long line of writers and everything. Oh, wow. So there's a lot of cool stuff. Yeah.
That's so interesting to me to see if like talents are passed down or, what are the similarities and things like that. Someone chimed in and said all the president's men. So.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I called it all the King's Men tonight. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. All the President's Men.
Yeah, Robert Redford. We would find him. He's
yes, it's a really good movie. Really good.
How did you come to your writing career? Did you always want to be a writer, or what made you take that leap? Because it's not for the faint of heart, as we all know.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I always did. I've, been a writer in some fashion since I was little, and I was in journalism from high school onward. Journalism was my major in college, and I was one of the few who didn't change their majors. I was in it and I practiced it, and and I went to Texas A&M, and yeah.
Just kidding. I have nothing to say.
Yeah.
A&M's great. A&M's great.
Yes. And so at A&M, we were sort of generalists. You learned how to do all sorts of writing and everything from public relations to marketing to newspaper and magazines. And that really helped me because I learned all these different types of writing. And So, and it was really in 2005, I was working for a medical journal, and going into the job, I knew it would only last a year and a half because medical journals tend to move every 3 years to a new spot because they're peer reviewed. And, and so I knew that it was a temporary situation, everything. And I thought, what am I going to do? And I'd been every day when I drive to work, I was going through a novel in my mind and everything. And I thought, I'm going to start my novel finally. And so I did. And so, yeah, and I got published in 2018. So it takes a long time, but
It's a long road.
but I finally made it. Yeah.
Congratulations. I think your series sounds so fascinating. I can't wait to get the first one.
Oh, thank you.
Comment, go Aggies, go Texas. Native Texan now living in Northern Illinois.
Woohoo! Gig 'em.
You can take the girl out of Texas. You can't take the Texas out of the girl, right?
Yes, for sure.
Well, Lucy is an Aggie, but she went to UT for grad school because I have something like 50 members of my family who went to UT. No kidding. And then there's like 4 of us who went to A&M. And yeah, so to be fair, I mean, my grandmother was actually at UT whenever the sniper back in the 60s.
Oh my goodness.
You know, the tower sniper, and he actually shot at her and it went over her head and lodged in a building.
Oh my God.
When she was running toward a building. So yeah. So and she was a Bluebonnet Belle at UT too. And so I've got all this UT. My parents are from, and but so yeah, so Lucy is an Aggie, but she went to UT for grad school, so I kind of have both in there. But
it's fun to be able to use that kind of stuff that you're familiar with. So have you gone to A&M to do any kind of talks there or anything?
No, not yet. So I'm hoping to. I'm hoping they might want to have. There's 2 other authors who are Aggies, and there's a whole bunch of us and everything, but 2 that sort of write fiction and whatnot that at least that I know of, and so I'm hoping that maybe one day they might have us, and but you never know. I have to see.
Yeah. My nephew will be graduating from there in the spring. He's on an Army scholarship. So he'll be going into the Army. He's majoring in nursing. So we're not sure where he'll end up yet, but he's had a great experience. He's loved it. It's been wonderful for him. And my cousin went there, and every car she's had since has been maroon.
Oh my God. Excellent. Yes, it's a good school. So is UT. All the Texas schools are,
Two of our kids, my son and Megan's daughter went to UT. So yeah, we're very
that game of the ride with OU. Yeah. I don't know if y'all watch that, but that game was all that overtime was crazy. So
I know. I didn't watch the first football are we on 2 football games now? I don't know, but I know the Aggies won last weekend. I know they won big. I missed it, but
well, it's just so weird now because it's like almost I feel like there's such less awareness of what's going on in the world because we can't connect to it nearly as much. It's. I mean, I almost feel like summer just went by and I wasn't even hardly aware of it being summer. And
yeah. I can't believe I just responded to a friend of mine who sent me something for research the other day. And I looked at when she sent it to me, and it was in April. And I feel like it was 2 weeks ago when she sent it to me. And when I replied to her, I was like, it's been 6 months, not 2 weeks. Wow.
This weird blur, just this kind of amorphous.
It really has.
I hope it ends very, very soon.
Me too.
It's getting really old. Yeah, and so maybe I'll see you at another Malice Domestic again.
I hope so. I'm planning on being there next year if they have it.
And when I was there before, Melissa didn't live in North Carolina yet, so maybe she and I will go up together.
Yeah, that would be fun.
We go for drinks or dinner, and
that'd be great.
Yeah, because it's always around DC, so that's easy for us.
Love DC.
We had some questions. Now I don't even remember what they are, Diane. I don't know if you do. But we had some questions we were going to ask every guest during our Cupful of Conversation. And I think one of them was, what'd you have for dinner tonight?
Let's see. So I had chicken salad and a little quinoa salad thing. That there's this cute little store over here, this little grocery type store that has all this fun food and everything. And I just happened to be over there today. And so I popped in and got some, but normally it'd be something more like sushi because I eat a lot of sushi and everything, but tonight it was chicken salad.
Do you make sushi? Or
Do I love
do you
like
make
sushi?
it, or do you go buy it somewhere?
Oh, sushi. Oh no, I always go get it. There's a little restaurant over by me that I've been going to for 20 years, and it's a little run by a Japanese family who are so wonderful, and so I love it. It's
So
good
you've been
stuff.
in Houston a long time then.
I have. I was born in Corpus Christi, and
Okay.
so grew up there until came here in the 5th grade, and so
I
yeah.
was
So
there in the very late, well, I'm trying to remember now. No, very early 90s. I moved there in 1990, August of 1990, and left January of 92. Is that
in
right?
Corpus.
No, in Houston.
Oh, Houston. Mm-hmm.
I spent a summer in Corpus Christi. My dad worked there for a while, and I did a summer. I took a class at Del Mar College and at CC. Well, it used to be CCSU, Corpus Christi State University. Now, isn't it Texas A&M?
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
A&M taking over.
I know. That's right.
Spreading.
we lived in the Heights for 1 year because we lived up in North Texas, but my husband took a job down in Houston. So we moved down there with him and lived in the Heights for 1 year, but he commuted the rest of the time because we missed our
Yeah.
Houston's
The
a
Heights
good city.
is great. There's a little ice cream place, and so if anybody follows me on Instagram, every once in a while I post about it and everything. It's called Fat Cat Creamery. It's in the Heights, and it's delicious. So good.
I don't even remember that.
I think they've only been around for about 3 or 4 years. So
Oh, maybe we just missed them.
yeah.
So let's see. What was one of our other questions? Like, what's your least favorite chore? I think was one of them. Does that sound right, Dad?
Yeah.
Least favorite chore. It depends. If we're talking like house cleaning and everything, it'd be doing the floors. Ugh.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's but are we talking any specific kind of chore?
No, whatever.
Yeah, I hate floors too, especially in a house with 6 pets. It's just fur.
Oh my gosh.
You can't get it. By the time you're done, it's all covered in fur again. So.
Yes. I've had animals my whole life until the past couple of years and everything, and there was just, even after all of them had unfortunately passed away of old age and whatnot, I mean, I would still find fur. I mean, even though I clean the house and everything, it'll get stuck somewhere random, and then you'll find it on the wall somewhere or whatever. Yeah. Crazy.
We finally had hardwoods put throughout our house because it's just so much easier than carpet. Carpet, it always sticks to carpet and stuff.
No kidding.
But it's worth the mess, right? Shakira, she's laying next to me here.
Shakira.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. What are you reading right now? What's on your nightstand?
Let's see. Right now, I'm reading the latest Reese Bowen Lady Georgie mystery, The Last Mrs. Summers, which is awesome, and I love that series. And those
are kind of historical too, right?
Yeah. It's set in England and between the world wars and everything. And Lady Georgie is she's a relative of the king. She's the king's cousin. And so and it's a really fantastic series if y'all haven't read it. And it's her Royal Spyness mysteries. And the greatest thing was, and I'm sure I didn't have anything to do with this and everything, but throughout the series, she's on like book, I don't know, 15 or whatever, but she never knew how exactly she was related to the king. She would say that it was the king and her father were cousins, but she didn't know what that made her and everything. And then finally in this one, it said she realizes that it was a cousin once removed. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what it is. So I was very excited that they
really clarified this question, because it's a question that always comes up in our house. So what's the difference between a second cousin versus a cousin once removed?
Okay, so a cousin once removed in simple terms is a cousin who is a generation older or younger than you are. So if so you everybody knows what their first cousin is, and it's the child of your aunt or uncle, right? So if you and your first cousin, if your first cousin, sorry, I don't want to mix anybody up. If your first cousin has a child, that child is your first cousin once removed because they're your first cousin, but they're a generation younger. So, and then a second cousin is whenever you have if your grandmothers, like for instance, if your grandmothers are sisters, then you then and your cousin, who you both have the grandmothers in common, are second cousins. It gets a little confusing. What you have to do is you always have to go back to your nearest common ancestor, and that's how you use a genealogy relationship chart. And like the one that I showed you in here, and if you're ever on my Instagram, I have it on my Instagram too. And so if you can see there, it says common ancestor.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like for instance, if your grandmothers are sisters, then you have to go back to the ancestor from whom all of you descend from. And so if your grandmothers are sisters, then that means that their parents produced your grandmothers, and then they also produced you. And so that means that your great grandparents are your nearest common ancestors. Okay. So whenever you use a genealogy relationship chart, you go to great grandparents on the top edge. So where it says great grandparents here. Sorry. There you go. And then you use the leftmost column and you go down to great grandparents there. And then whenever you drag together, then it ends up at second cousin. And so that's the way that you do it.
Multiplication chart. You just use it like
exactly. Exactly. You have to just find it, but that's the key, is going through your nearest common ancestor, but it has to be from whom everybody descends from.
Okay.
And so it has to be the people who produced all of you. Think of it that way. So you can't go from your cousin's grandmother, because your cousin's grandmother didn't produce you. Okay. But your great grandparents produced all of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So so that's what you do. You go and you use that. Yeah, and it's a little confusing to explain it without good charts and everything. But yeah. So you're once removed just means that they're a generation older or younger than you are, and twice removed, 2 generations, that kind of thing. So.
Okay.
Mystery solved.
Yeah, kind of. Most people are still like, yeah, I'm still really confused because that was way too wordy for me. But yeah.
What did you say? It's clear as mud. Right?
Yeah.
So let's see. Gwen Romack says, hi, friends. Hey, Gwen. Lecha Haney, so I said it right. She thinks genealogy is so very, very interesting. I do too. I don't know if I have the wherewithal to dig into it, but I think it's fascinating.
I'm like a treasure hunt, kind of.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
It's very much a treasure hunt. So, yes.
And it seems like there's a person in every family that kind of takes on that role. Like that did it for a while. One of my sisters was really into it for a while. And then my husband's sister, for his family.
Mm-hmm.
Whole notebook for everybody on all kinds of stuff. First one. I see somebody else has 4 cats. Yeah, talk about fur. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that last time with Shelley too, when we were talking about all your cats, and Gwen was with us.
So many.
I had a cat who looked like yours. He was so cute.
Yeah, she's getting kind of old.
Mm-hmm.
She's getting old. She's kind of doing this little like trimmery thing. It's kind of strange, but she doesn't seem to be bothered by it. So
that's Shakira.
Yeah, I have to go get her checked out and see if that's anything to be concerned about. But she's kind of so old now. It's like, I don't know if there's she's happy to sit on the bed all day. And
so what's on tap for y'all next? Do y'all have books coming out?
I have one coming out later this month. Bending the Paws coming out on the 27th.
2 weeks,
so, from yesterday, yeah. And then and I've actually got 2 new series coming out next year, which is kind of exciting. I've got one's actually with a different publisher. It's with Berkeley, and it's a Moonshine series. And then with St. Martin's, I've got a Mountain Lodge series.
Oh, fantastic. That's wonderful. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's always fun to be writing something new and kind of getting to know the new characters, like having new friends. And
right.
Super,
absolutely.
Super busy. Yeah. I don't know how you keep it all straight in your head.
Yeah, it's hard.
And Melissa, you have a new one, Melissa, coming out, because I saw that Drew Ann Love got it. And didn't
Yeah,
she send her one? Yeah.
yeah. So it came out a couple of weeks ago, and that's the first in a new series. And then I still have my Bread Shop series too. The next one comes out in April, I think, end of April. And
Oh,
then I have a
great.
novella connected to the Book Magic series that'll come out in November. Yeah, so I'm just juggling two. Whereas Diane, you're juggling how many? 3, 4?
3. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow, that
What's
is
what's
crazy.
next for you, Stephanie? Do you have the next one in the works already, or
I
you're waiting on
do.
your contract?
Yeah, well, I'm at the end of my contract right now, so we just have to see, how things work out. And but I'm working on number 4 to send to my agents to see what they think about it. And then I have something different that I'm working on, that's still a secret right now that hasn't been picked up or anything yet. But I'm working on that too, and my agents know about that, and they know I'm real excited about it. So fingers crossed on that one. But
You
so
can't
we'll
give us
see.
a hint?
And it would be a historical. So yeah, historical mystery. Yeah. So
Cool.
so
So it's
we'll
still
see.
within the cozy genre, or
No,
outside
it
of
would not be cozy. No.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
But I bet
So
you your reader base would still follow. I think 'cause it's
I
going to be
hope
enough.
so. Yeah, I hope so. So yeah.
One of the book warriors just said, Melissa, did I tell you I finished Murder in Devil's Cove and loved it?
Oh, Shelley, thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so happy with that book.
That's
So I'm glad that you
fantastic.
loved it a lot.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
thank you
somebody
so much.
said going to Malice is on their bucket list. So yes, Malice is so much fun if you get to go. It's a blast.
Yeah. And one thing that we love about it is meeting readers, because
Oh
what we
yeah.
do is very solitary, very isolating. And we can read reviews or interact on Facebook or something, but whoa, there she goes. But the in-person stuff, really, it's such a treat for authors. So yeah, if any of
Oh
y'all
my
are
God.
ever able
Meeting
to
readers has been the greatest thing, and interacting with them, and and having, because I ask a lot of genealogy questions and they'll tell me their genealogy stories and everything. It's really cool. I've heard some really neat stuff from readers, so I've loved it.
well, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining us tonight. This was fun, and thank you, Book
Thanks. This was so
Warriors, who
much
joined
fun.
in.
It's
I know
been
some
so
more people
in-
watched it. They posted. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been so interesting, Stephanie, and it's really nice meeting you. If you you should post your covers and some information about your books in the comment section, so when people see the video tomorrow and later, they can find you also.
I'd love that. I'd love that. Thank you so much, everyone. This was so much
Oh,
fun. Thank you for having me. What? Say that
She's
again?
a good one with promotions. She always knows like all the where to put stuff where, the technology and stuff. She's good at that. So I don't know what I do without her.
Did we talk about the black frame that we have? That's black and weird because it's Halloween month. So
Oh, I wondered about that. I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah.
Around our frame.
Yeah, spooky.
It almost kind of looks like an old mirror. You know how they get kind of like that around the edges?
Yeah, like frock. Is it called flocked or something like that? I don't know.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Oh,
There's a
yeah,
word
when
for
they
that.
put the gold coating.
Yes, I
All
like
right, you
it.
guys, cheers.
That's great.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yes.
Cheers. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers. Thank you so much again.
Jeff, thank you. We're so glad that you're here. Bye, Shelley. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Y'all